Hey, I'm Jamey Ice, Fort Worth native, musician turned entrepreneur, and someone who loves diving into the stories behind great brands. In each episode, we sit down with the leaders, dreamers, and builders who are shaping our community, pulling back the curtain on their journey and the real lessons and tactics that got them to where they are today. No fluff, no highlight reels, just real conversations with remarkable people about what it takes to build something that truly matters. I'm your host, and this is Stories with Soul. Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamey Ice, and we are in a new studio today. We have been building our very own Stories with Soul 6th Avenue Storytelling studio, so this is our inaugural episode. And I'm here with Marcus Paslay.
Hello.
I'm so pumped you are here. I've wanted to have you here for quite some time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
so the place is great. The new studio is pretty sweet.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see if
we're gonna break it in.
We're gonna break it in. Things may go off the rockers, hopefully not. But so Marcus is honestly one of Fort Worth's most celebrated culinary figures. He's the visionary behind beloved local restaurants like Clay Pigeon, Piatello, Provender Hall, Walloons, and you just bought Mercado Juarez.
Yeah, way out of left field there.
Way out of left field there. His journey has taken him from the kitchens of Alaska, Vail, Hawaii, and Seattle to becoming a cornerstone of Fort Worth's vibrant dining scene. I'm excited to hear all about those. His unique culinary approach reflects his Texas roots and his love for working with ingredients that honor the land and the seasons. Beyond the kitchen, he's a family man, a devoted community member, and the driving force behind the Paslay Foundation, which supports children with learning differences, a cause close to his heart. Whether it's perfecting a scratch-made pasta at Piatello. I'm saying that right?
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
Man, I've got to check it. Breathing new life into the historic Tex-Mex institution, Mercado Juarez, or designing a seafood oasis at Walloons, Marcus has a knack for creating dining experiences that feel both innovative and deeply personal. So without further ado, Marcus, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. You're really good at writing bios. You should have like a marketing company or something.
Yeah, my other bio writer. Although we do kind of do that.
Yeah.
So man, I want to kick it back to the beginning. You're from are you from Arlington? Is that right?
I am. Yeah.
Arlington originally. So take me back to like the origin story. Like
pretty normal upbringing. Grew up in Arlington, all the way through grade school, and then just kind of off from there.
Where'd you go to high school?
Martin.
Okay, you went to Martin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Public school kid.
Yeah.
I went to Pascal.
Yeah.
I think we played y'all in sports and lost to y'all in sports.
Maybe. Yeah. It's a big school.
It is a big school.
I think we ended up graduating with like 1,000 kids in my class.
Okay. Yeah, that's massive.
It's big.
So from Arlington, went to Martin. I mean,
Yep.
were you into like were you into food stuff? Like, were you cooking then?
Not as like a kid. It was never, I liked to cook, but it was not like a big hobby of mine.
It wasn't on your radar.
No,
you were
never.
Like, I'm gonna be a chef.
Right. Okay. I love to hunt and fish, and sports and that kind of thing.
Did your dad hunt and fish?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what like where would y'all go and what would you do?
Wherever we could.
Okay.
Like, whoever would have us.
Did you have like a deer lease?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a deer lease out in Graham for a little while.
Oh, I love Graham.
And then beyond that, it was just kind of piggybacking on with friends and stuff.
So
you
you were eating game meat.
Correct.
Venison, yeah.
Correct.
My dad was a huge hunter.
Really?
And come November, we only ate venison.
That's awesome.
And so I appreciate it now. Back then,
this is weird, Dad.
I just got so tired of it.
Yeah.
The backstrap was good, but then they'd make this venison stroganoff all the time, and I hated it. But now,
what do you do with all this ground meat?
Yeah. So you grew up hunting and fishing.
And it's still something I love to do. It's a big passion. It's great to be able to take my son and my daughter out and kind of do those types of things that I got to do when I was growing up. So,
and are they into it?
My son's into it.
He is?
Yeah.
How old's your son?
He is 10.
10.
Yeah.
Oh,
we have
man.
a 10-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl.
That's awesome. And she is not as into it?
Not into it. She is into ballet and
The other end of the spectrum.
yeah, she's awesome. She's great. She loves it. And then dude loves kind of being outside and getting dirty.
Oh,
so
that's awesome. I have my oldest daughter will not go hunting with me.
yeah,
My younger daughter JJ, who's 6, she'll do it. She'll come sit with me in the deer blind. We'll go dove hunting, and she'll go get the doves.
yeah.
But my oldest one is not.
Not-
I'm like,
not
you want to
happening.
come? She's like, I'm good.
Love the honesty.
Yeah, she's like, I'm good.
Thanks, Dad.
That's all right. So grew up like, and did you went to college, right?
I did. I didn't finish.
Okay.
But I did go. I was never a good student all the way through grade school and to college. I've got dyslexia, and it was always a struggle for me. And I'm telling you, I was an awful student.
Did you know you had dyslexia?
I did. It wasn't until about 4th grade, where it kind of all came to a head. I was pretty far behind by 4th grade.
Okay.
And so that was
Just reading wise.
reading, spelling. I mean, really, really everything. So, luckily I have phenomenal parents who were like, well, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
What's the deal? So, that coupled with some teachers that kind of knew what was going on. They take you to, do the testing. So you get your IQ test and then the learning differences test and the whole bit. So, there becomes a gap between intelligence and performance.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, there is a gap. So what's that all about? And how do we fix it? So,
How did that affect just confidence?
Yeah.
Like what was sort of the impact of that?
I think it's pretty big. When you're a kid, you're in school for 13 years. I mean, you have to go. And if you're really, really bad at it, that's 13 years. Really the first 13 years you can remember of your life, where it's failure over and over and over and over and over. So I think it can be confidence crushing, which is really a shame.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have the confidence to do things, that keeps you from living up to your potential, what you might be able to do. So luckily, my parents were really in my corner and figured out I'm dyslexic, and we found Hill School here in Fort Worth, and they specialize in educating kids with dyslexia, ADD, the whole bit. I went there for 3 years, and it changed my life really at a pretty young age, and taught me skills and how to learn in different ways and how to cope with not being a great student, but still be able to get by. So, long story short, I went there and got back into the public school system, graduated from Martin, went to the University of Oklahoma to do a business degree, and just more failure, and I hated it. I hated it.
Yeah.
School's great, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't a good time for me.
Yeah.
And
Because of the school component.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when I got into restaurants. Just started cooking, started washing dishes, and
Like working.
working in restaurants.
So you were like, I need money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
I'm
you chose.
I'm gonna go wash dishes.
But you chose back of house, not front of house.
I did.
Okay.
And I fell in love with the business, and it really made a lot of sense to me. The business of a restaurant's not terribly complicated,
I would argue
there's
with that.
yeah.
It's pretty dang. Maybe to you.
Well, I mean,
Unpack what you mean, but I'm not gonna cut it off there.
I mean, you buy food, you fix it up, and you sell it for more than you bought it.
You heard it there. That's all you need to know.
I mean,
Want to start a restaurant?
Yeah.
I have tried that. I started a restaurant. It's way harder.
You did?
I opened brewed.
Oh, that's right. I knew that.
Stories with Soul is brought to you by my company, 6F Storytelling, where we help entrepreneurs and small businesses grow through the power of storytelling. If you're stuck watching competitors get all the attention, or you're tired of wasting money on random marketing tactics that don't work, you're not alone. As an entrepreneur who's built multiple businesses, I know firsthand how frustrating it can be to have a great product or have a great service, but struggle to get the attention you deserve. Because here's the truth. Being good at what you do isn't enough anymore. You need a way to stand out and connect with your ideal customers. That's why we created the Storytelling Pathway, a proven framework for story-driven marketing that turns solid businesses into brands people can't stop talking about. So whether you're just starting out or if you're ready to scale, we can help you craft and share your unique story in a way that attracts the right customers and drives real growth. So if you're ready to stand out, visit 6thAvestorytelling.com today. I would love to chat with you.
Anyways, keep telling your story. It's really hard.
It's a whip.
Yeah, that knowing the percentages and the numbers and the labor costs and your food costs and getting it right and timing, and people order 7 different things. Like, bro, it is.
Yeah.
So, but it was easy for you, is what you're saying.
Well, it made sense to me.
It made sense. It clicked.
And it was something that I felt like, I could work hard at this and actually make it work. You know.
So you're a kid washing dishes.
Yeah, and then so.
And you're cooking at that point?
A little bit, kind of doing a little prep work.
But you were not cooking as a kid.
No.
It's so wild.
I know, it's really weird. So
were you into food?
I started to get really into food.
Okay.
And so I decided I'm going to drop out of college.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to culinary school.
When was that? Like what grade was that?
I was in college, so I would have been a sophomore in college.
Okay, so your sophomore year.
Yeah.
Mom and dad.
Hey, guess what? Come home for Christmas. Hey, guess what? I've decided I'm going to drop out of college.
What'd they say?
They're like, well, you know, they knew I wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, let's talk about this, you know? And so I said, well, yeah, I think I want to cook. I want to go to culinary school. I want to kind of chase that down. And of course, my dad knew the statistics behind restaurant failure and all that. And he's like, you know, it's a really tough business. You know, you're not going to be able to cook your whole life because it's a really physical job. Mm-hmm. The business side of it is racked with failure, which was not new to me. So I was okay with that. And
yeah, you're like, I can handle failure.
Yeah, failure I'm good with.
I can overcome that. And did you have that kind of spirit? I mean, like, did dyslexia give you some of that?
I think that was kind of the silver lining of all the challenges I faced so early.
Yeah.
Is that taking risk and failing now doesn't paralyze me. Like, it's fine. Well, I can go with it.
So, like, again, not to silver lining it, but the amount of entrepreneurs who are dyslexic is insane.
It's crazy.
Because they have to learn to think completely differently.
Yeah.
It's like they have to think outside the box. They have to problem solve. They've been crushed in school.
Right.
And that can either like crush you and devastate you, or you like rise up from it.
Dude, that's exactly why we started the Paslay Foundation. Because we were seeing, I mean, you see, when compared to the average population, you've got a much higher density of people with some sort of learning difference that are entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. The same goes for people in the correctional facilities. Like it's a high percentage of.
Oh, in jails, is that what you mean?
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
When compared to kind of the normal population, so you start doing the research and you see, well, what's the gap? What's the difference between
you either wind up successful or you wind up in jail?
It's extremes.
Not
like
that there's always black and white. But
it's not always black and white, but you're gonna likely fall on one end of the spectrum and not a lot of gray room in the middle. So, so like, what's the deal? And it's resources. It's family. It's
part of you being where you are right now is probably because you've said multiple times already. My mom and dad,
100%,
had very supportive mom. This family unit,
strong family life. Had the resources to send me to a specialized school. Mm-hmm.
But do you think it taught you how to think differently?
I do. Yeah.
So, and you mentioned the Paslay Foundation. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can come back, but that's your nonprofit, your foundation. We'll dive into that a little more.
Okay.
So, in Oklahoma, you go back home, you're like, I'm dropping out. I've fallen in love with
cooking.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
This is easy.
This is great.
And what was
And so I did. So they were, at the end of the day, they were like, well, go for it. If it's something you're into and you're willing to work hard at, go for it. So we went for it. Moved to New York, went to culinary school in New York.
And was that hard to get into?
Yeah.
It's the Culinary Institute of America, is that
Culinary
right?
Institute of America.
In
yeah. Hyde Park.
Hyde Park.
Yeah.
Which is a
Upstate
very
New York.
prestigious.
It's a great place.
Yeah.
Beautiful place.
And you, in your Arlington hunting, fishing kid going to New York,
Yeah.
was that?
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Okay.
It was great. It was upstate New York. So it's, it's not
It's
not
Manhattan.
New York City.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though I love New York City. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fun. So went up there, culinary school, and man, I got it clicked. Like it was, I was into it. I was working with my hands. I loved it. Everything kind of made sense. It wasn't easy, but I got it.
Yeah.
And it was.
Was that the first time you kind of felt that way?
Yeah. 100%.
You found your thing.
I was like, this is it.
Okay.
I love this. And I found success in it. I was doing well in school. I was learning a ton, which felt great. So it was really a wonderful time in my life to kind of jump in the deep end like that and learn so much so quickly and really get after it. Yeah. Felt productive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long? How long of a program is that?
They have a 2-year program and a 4-year program. I did their 2-year program.
2-year program.
Yeah.
And then after that, did you go work for restaurants?
I did. So Emily and I got married halfway through that. She also went to the University of Oklahoma. She graduated.
Did you meet there?
We met in high school. Yeah.
Oh, y'all are high school sweethearts?
Since our junior year in high school.
Y'all were like dating in junior in high school?
Uh-huh.
No way.
Yeah, since we were babies.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so rare.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty rare. How long have y'all been married?
18 years.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's amazing. But you've been together for
24.
Oh my gosh. So she followed you to New York, or she stayed at Oklahoma.
Right.
Y'all went to Oklahoma together.
Correct.
You go to New York.
Yeah, she finished her degree while I was doing my first year in New York, and then during the break, I came back home. We got married, and she moved up there to New York with me.
So y'all got married young.
We did. We got married pretty young.
And then y'all go to New York.
And we go to New York. Had an apartment in this town called Poughkeepsie. Not a great part of town. We had it was a real hole of a place. And we had $900 in our joint account, and rent was $900 a month.
Whoa!
And we moved in. And we looked at each other. We were like, "What did we just do?" So she went and got 3 jobs.
Oh wow!
I was going to school full time and got a job, full-time job after that. So we were working and getting after it. And
what was her degree in, or like was she using that at all?
She's a physical therapist.
She's a physical therapist. But y'all are just taking any job to pay the bills.
Yeah, we're just taking any job. And so finished culinary school, moved to Alaska, cook up there for a season.
Why did you go to Alaska?
We had a connection with this guy who owned a hunting lodge up there.
Okay.
Hunting and fishing. And the only way in was by float plane.
Where
It's
in
in the middle of nowhere. Kind of central, east to west, but then southern part off of Lake Iliamna.
Okay. I have no idea where that is, but it sounds...
It's right there.
So it's like a hunting fishing lodge.
Hunting fishing lodge.
And they need a chef?
They needed a chef. And so the deal was I would kind of come in there, and I'm fresh out of culinary school, you know.
You're not even really a chef. You're
I
went to culinary school.
I'm so green at the time. And so the deal was I'd go in there and kind of develop a menu and then teach them how to replicate it over and over, because a new group of people would come in every week. So it's kind of this, weekly rotation of menu items. So we did that, and there's a million stories behind that. That was a good time.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun.
That seems right up your alley.
Yeah, it was nuts. And then where do we go after that? I think Emily.
And is Emily cool with Alaska? Is she
Yeah,
like
Emily's the best.
Okay,
Yeah.
she's down for Alaska wilderness.
Yep.
We have to get a float plane.
Yeah, we did a lot of travel in our first 10 years of marriage. We were in New York, Alaska, Seattle, Vail, Colorado.
Did you work at
Canlis,
which is like one of the most famous restaurants in the world?
it's phenomenal.
I've always wanted to eat there.
It's amazing.
I've heard like some podcasts with those, I guess the brothers, I guess like in the hospitality side.
Yeah, they're very impressive.
And what were you doing
people.
there?
I was a cook.
You were a cook.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that's a hard space to get into.
It was really interesting. So I had been at Rough Creek down in Glen Rose and was a sous chef there.
Okay.
And I kind of came up through the ranks in kind of a different way of cooking. And then we decided, let's move to Seattle. And
Why?
Emily was doing her doctorate of physical therapy program, and there was a rotation available up there for her to go work at. And so we thought, why not? It's a great food town.
Yeah.
She's kind of got a built-in job, so we'll move up there and I'll get a job. And, she would go to school and I'd go to school, and we kind of took turns paying for each other and that kind of thing. So went up to Seattle, and I was so dumb. I didn't know what Canlis was at the time.
Oh, you didn't?
And I didn't really even understand the fine dining world and kind of how that works and the rotation of it and all of that. Like it's not something we experience here. So it's a whole different world. So I'm literally Googling best restaurants in Seattle, and that's where I'd go apply.
Yeah.
So I walked in the front door, in the morning, and just walked straight back to the kitchen, and handed the chef my resume, and he looked at me. He's like, "How the hell did you get in here? Who are you?"
Yeah.
Because the way these things work is it's all recommendation. It's all
Okay.
You work for this chef, and he set up something for you to talk to that chef, and it's all relationship based, and that's how these things go. And he's looking at me like, "Who the hell are you?" And so I was like, "I'm just here to apply for a job."
Yeah.
And so he's like, "All right, come back tonight, and you'll stage, so you'll work for an evening, and we'll figure it out."
So he just gave you a chance on the spot.
Kind of.
Okay.
I think he was setting me up, but it worked out. And so I get there, and there's like 7 of us staging.
Staging, what is that?
It's essentially like a working interview.
Okay.
So you come and you observe.
I like the idea of that.
And you kind of jump in where you can and that whole bit.
So there's basically it's 7 competitors.
7
For
competitors.
the same.
Yeah. So we worked
like Hunger Games.
We worked the whole dinner shift, and then at the end of it, we're all cleaning up, and he comes to the 7 of us, and he's like, "Okay, here's a steak fillet. You just cook it medium, and use anything in the kitchen, and come up with a composed dish that has the steak as the protein, and I want it up at 10:30." And so we're like, "All right."
What is up at 10:30?
Just ready to be
At 10:30 p.m.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So he gave us a time. He's like,
It's got to be perfect.
It's got to be
at
perfect.
10:30. Okay.
Got to be ready. Can't be early. Can't be late. Got to be ready. So we all put it up. 10:30 comes. We all put our dishes up, and then the 7 of us go out into the dining room. And what happens is the chef and the sous chefs and the cooks, they all kind of dissect the dish and talk about how this person worked and so on and so forth. And so he comes out of the kitchen. We're all in the dining room, and he points at me. He's like, "All right, job's yours.
Oh, in front of everybody else.
Come back tomorrow at 2."
No way.
Yeah.
What do you remember what you made?
I do. It was awful.
It was awful?
Yeah, it was not good.
Really? But
yeah.
you weren't like, you've been at Rough Creek Lodge.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Texas, like.
right. It was good, but it wasn't refined to the level of what they were doing.
Yeah, because I heard about it. There was this was several years ago. The brothers, I think, were on Donald Miller's Story Brand podcast. Just Google that. Canlis.
Yeah.
Story Brand. Fantastic interview. But But that's a place where, like, if you're like on your deathbed or you're proposing, or some of the most famous restaurants in the world,
Yeah.
if you want this like once in a lifetime experience,
It's truly a unique place.
Hey, I'm interrupting this episode because I want to share something with you that I'm really excited about. One of my biggest missions in life is to make entrepreneurship easier than it was for me. After spending over a decade building multiple businesses, I've learned some hard lessons, often the expensive way. And here's the thing, I see so many talented entrepreneurs struggling with the exact same challenges that I faced. They've got great products, they've got great services, but they're stuck trying to figure out how to stand out and how to grow. They're wasting time and money on random marketing tactics, they're watching competitors get all the attention, and they're feeling overwhelmed about what to focus on next. That's exactly why my team and I just created 2 incredible free resources that I genuinely wish I had when I was starting out. The first is our storytelling marketing assessment. In just 5 minutes, it'll show you exactly where your marketing stands today and give you a clear roadmap of what to work on next. No more guessing, no more wasting time on strategies that don't work. And the second is our complete storytelling pathway framework. This is the exact system that we've used to help hundreds of businesses grow through the power of story. This isn't just a theory, it's a practical, proven framework that shows you step by step how to turn your business into a brand people can't stop talking about. I'm giving both of these away completely for free because I truly believe that when local businesses thrive, our whole community thrives. This isn't about making a quick buck. It's about sharing what works and helping other entrepreneurs succeed. You can get both resources right now at 6thAveStorytelling.com/free. I promise you these are absolute game changers. They're going to help you get clear on exactly what you need to do to grow your business and give you the roadmap to make it happen. Don't miss out on these. Head over to 6thAveStorytelling.com/free and grab them now. All right, back to our conversation.
So, and how long did you work there?
I was there for a couple of years.
Couple years. Okay.
Yeah.
So really learning the ins and outs of fine dining.
Right. Right.
And then when did you come back to Fort Worth and like transition from I'm a chef to I'm a restaurateur?
Yeah. So we came back after 10 years of travel, and we kind of decided, it's time to go back home. We wanted to put down some roots, and this was really the best place to do it. Not only from a we've got family nearby, and, we knew we wanted kids, so that was going to be important. Economically, it was the right place to be. I mean, it's hard to open a restaurant in a lot of the cities we were in. It just doesn't financially make any sense at all.
Real estate in Seattle.
Right.
Is insane.
Yeah. To open a restaurant in Vail or New York or Seattle is it's really.
Yeah. All of those.
Yeah.
Most expensive real estate in America.
Right. So, it made a lot of sense for us to come back, and we love Fort Worth. It was always kind of home base for us anyway. So came back here and worked in Dallas for a little bit, and just kind of waited for the right time. And
was it always the goal, I want to own my own space, or were you like, I'm going to be a chef at?
I always wanted to own my own business, even as a kid, I always wanted to own my own business. I never knew what that would be. But as I got into the restaurant business, it became pretty obvious that that's the business I would own. So
you came back with that intention?
Yes, but I didn't have a timeline on it. It was more, I came back with that dream, not necessarily the intention.
Here's a plan. Here's a business plan.
Right. I didn't have any of that. So that all came about kind of later on. So,
well, unpack that. Tell me how.
Well, I was working, and I was just getting to the point where I was frustrated, and Emily, my wife, she's like, well, why don't you just open up your own place?
You're getting frustrated working for other people?
Right.
Okay.
And she's like, why don't you just open up your own restaurant? You've always talked about it. It's something you want to do. Just do it. I was like, oh, wow.
So
she called me out.
She pushed you.
Yeah, she did. And I was like, okay. So I think what we did was she was like, we've got 3 months of income here, so a 3-month timeline. She's like, if
Which is a really short timeline, by the way.
That's not long. And so she said,
launching any business in 3 months.
it's not advised.
Not a lot of runway.
So she's like, if you can get it done in 3 months, great. If not, go get a job.
Okay. Bro.
So at the end of the 3 months, I was getting a job.
Okay. So 3 months was not enough.
It didn't work.
Okay.
But it really got the ball rolling. And I started to learn what I did need to work on, what I didn't know. And
which was what? What did you not know?
I couldn't put a business plan together.
Okay.
I had no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
And getting started was really difficult for me.
Because you need a lot of money.
You need a lot of money. You need a lot of things, apparently, which I didn't know at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is probably a good thing that I didn't know. So getting started was a real hurdle to get over, but then finally did. So in 2013, I was working and opening Clay Pigeon.
Well, how did you cross that bridge? Like, did you go find someone that knew how to do a business plan? Did you go find like what did you do?
I was just research. I mean, it's business plan for dummies book.
Okay.
And
For real, like
for real,
you bought a business plan for dummies book?
Yeah, I've got like 12 for dummies books. Yeah, and they're not bad. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
So just little by little, kind of started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Borrowed some money from friends and family, and we got a broker, started looking for a spot. Couldn't afford any of the spots, and it was just like, man, even the rent everywhere is so tough. I can't financially make sense of any of this. And then we drove past this building that was all boarded up and kind of easy to drive past and not see. And I'm like, what is that?
But wouldn't that like Lambert's?
Yeah, but they'd been shut down. They'd been closed for years.
Oh, okay.
Like 3 years or something.
And it had just been vacant.
Yeah, they just boarded it up and kind of left it. So, long story short, we were able to purchase that building.
Oh, you bought the building?
Cheaper than we could have signed a lease.
No way.
At like West 7th, for
but
instance.
That's kind of ballsy. Like buying a building is
yeah. Well, I never said I was smart.
But that's smart. I think it is smart.
It ended up being smart.
I think it is one of my biggest regrets with Brood when we opened it. We were one of the first things to go that far down Magnolia towards Hemp Hill, and we could have bought our building.
Yeah.
For a fraction of what it's worth now.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, that's too scary and too risky. And in hindsight, but then we created the value. We made this beautiful space, and now the building's worth way more. And
yeah, I know.
So in reality, man, that was a really smart move.
Yeah, really smart move. So
and that was before White Settlement is what it is, and 7th and all.
That's
of
right.
That.
Yeah.
So you bought the building.
Got
a business plan for dummies book.
That's
got a
right.
Business plan.
Yeah.
Friends
Borrowed a little bit of money, and
which is always scary.
Always scary. I mean, frightening. Especially, I mean, you're like taking friends and family's money. Like you don't sleep at night trying to figure that one out.
And did you have a concept had you been dreaming about this concept for a while?
Yeah. And I had, I'd been working in fine dining restaurants and had, huge aspirations. And, the first menu at Clay Pigeon was pretty ambitious, especially since no one knew who I was. No one had ever eaten at that restaurant.
Ambitious meaning it was...
It was some of the food items and techniques were not...
You were kind of showing off a little
I was showing off. There's a lot of ego in that menu. And
still or was?
Was.
Okay. You simplified it?
Yeah.
Like what did you do that was like, you feel like that was a bad idea? Do you remember any of those?
Yeah. I didn't have a steak on the menu.
For real?
Because I thought, this is Fort Worth. There's 100 different steakhouses.
You didn't have a steak.
Who needs another steak? So what's the point of that?
Mm-hmm.
I was completely wrong. So after 6 months of my ego-driven menu, it became pretty clear that we were going to go out of business.
Oh, so it wasn't good in the beginning.
No. People were like, "What is this?"
Really? That's hard because in my mind, every time I go to Clay Pigeon, ever like Tuesday night Wednesday night. There's
Yeah.
like line of cars out
Yeah.
front, and it's packed. And I'm like, this is always, always, always packed.
Well, we pivoted pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't. So you opened it, you borrowed all this money, you put all this
Yeah.
work, and bought this building.
Yeah, we're doing a
And you're
lot of the
losing
work
money?
ourselves. We're losing money, and I was like, man, we got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So we pivot, we change the menu, we're going out there and pounding the pavement. We're doing all the things, and slowly the wheels started to turn and gain momentum, and then trust from the diners kind of followed that, and then we were able to stretch the menu a little bit, and then finally start making some money, and then
What did you do that clicked? Like, when was it like this resonated or this clicked or?
I don't know what it was that clicked with guests. I really hope it's the hospitality we gave, and I hope it's just that caught up to itself.
The hospitality side?
Right. Because really that's what we're there to do, is just to make people feel good.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to come into one of our restaurants and just feel good. We want them to enjoy themselves. And there's food and service and ambiance all goes into that. But
Yeah.
But that's the goal.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember that bank account getting really, really tight, and we had we're coming up on the holiday season, and we had this group rent out the whole restaurant
Mm-hmm.
for their company party, and we had never done that before,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a big like I was like, I charged them a number thinking like they'll never do this,
Yeah.
and they did it, and it saved my rear.
Really?
Yeah.
So
And-
that was like
and,
a kind of divine
from then
intervention.
on, we started making money.
Okay.
It was crazy.
Yeah, how long into the restaurant was that?
That was probably a couple of years.
Okay. Oh, a couple years until
Yeah.
it. I don't know that I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty tough in the beginning.
How would you describe Clay Pigeon? Like what is the
It's an
from-
American restaurant,
from
your
your perspective?
Yeah. I just think it's a really good neighborhood restaurant. We're serving American food. It's upscale, but it's not fine dining. It's a place that you can go in your blue jeans or your tuxedo. It doesn't really matter. So
I would say Clay Pigeon to me is one of, I think one of the reasons I love it is it's so consistent. It's like no
Yeah.
matter what. Like I feel like restaurants
Well,
kind
thank
of go through
that's
this
a big compliment.
up
Thank
and
you.
down. Like no matter what, the vibe is always great. The food is always great. It's
Yeah.
it's not frilly. It's kind of no frills. It's like
Right.
that. I either get like your giant pork chop, which I
Yeah.
love, or that what's like this? It's like a spirulina something.
Oh, the spinalis.
Spinalis. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's like meat and potatoes, but it's
Yeah.
just good and
Just good.
consistent, and the vibe is right.
Right.
Whereas I go to so many places, and it's like just kind of all over. You never know what you're gonna get, and like Clay Pigeon's it's like consistent, and it's always a good vibe. Like one of my favorite meals I've ever had in Fort Worth was with a couple friends, and I got the spinalis, which is like this crazy steak. I don't know what it is, but it was really good.
Yeah.
And then this Cab Franc. I'm trying to remember what the wine was,
Yeah.
but man, it was
It's awesome.
It was so good.
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, creating those memories and that connection at the table is what the whole thing's about.
Yeah. So 2 years in.
2 years
finally
in.
finally working.
Finally seeing some daylight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And start making some money. And
And you have kids at this point?
I did. Yeah. So our daughter was under a year when we opened Clay Pigeon.
Oh, so you're like double stressed.
Yeah.
I'm a new dad.
I'm a new dad. I'm never at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You're working nights.
So I'm working all day, and Emily's just doing everything.
Is she working too?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And so then we thought, you know what? Things are getting almost comfortable. Let's open another restaurant. And that's what we did with Piatello.
And how did
And
that
then
come to
had
be?
a son.
And then had a son. How did that happen?
The landlord came to us and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this new development. I'd love to have one of your shops in there." And that's kind of how it started. And I always wanted to open an authentic Italian restaurant here. We had a lot of red sauce joints, but we didn't really have a restaurant that was doing real Italian homemade pastas every day, that kind of thing. And I love that style of food.
Yeah.
And so I was really anxious to do that.
Which is a departure from, the meat and potatoes,
right,
southern-y, Texas-y thing of Clay Pigeon.
Right.
Where people like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah. When we first opened, I think there were a lot of people that were wanting an Olive Garden.
Okay.
And we weren't that. And we stuck to our guns on the menu, and it paid off because now it's a really, really great.
And did that go well?
It went well
because you learned a bunch.
Yeah, we learned a lot, and it's always been a consistent restaurant for us. It's always just kind of been a steady Eddie, which is great.
And then what did you learn? Like were there any big lessons you took into location number 2, second concept, either from managing people or from building a menu or from marketing or are there any man, I learned this and we did this right?
Yeah. We learn a lot from all of our shops. Learned that needed to start with more money. I needed a longer runway to get it going.
I've never not heard an entrepreneur say that.
Yeah.
Of all these podcasts I've done,
everyone's like, I need more money.
You need twice as much as you think you do. But also, you probably wouldn't do it. If you knew you had to need twice as much, you wouldn't
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
It's just not always comfortable. Managing people is always, that's a craft. Like that's an ongoing skill to hone. So I think you just get better and better with that over time.
What have you learned in that?
I think consistency is a really big deal. Just being honest about who you are and consistent with that, it shakes a lot of things out. When you start getting inconsistent, no one knows what to expect. I think that's when the wheels start falling off. I think there's a lot of different management styles that work, provided it's consistent. If you're not consistent, it's gonna.
But you seem like a pretty consistent person.
For the most part,
you seem pretty steady, Eddie.
I'm a lot calmer than I used to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you not used to be?
I used to be a little bit of a hothead.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't picture you as a hothead.
Yeah. Well, I was all spun up about making things work and feeling the stress and
the stress of all that.
And that turned me into a bit of a hothead, and that wasn't healthy for anybody. And so I toned that down quite a bit.
Like intentionally, you're like, I need to tone it down.
Yeah.
And did you do anything specifically to
I pray a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. That helps.
Yeah.
And my wife is good about checking me.
Checking you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can resonate with both those things.
Yeah.
Because prayer, the act of prayer is I want less of me, less of ego, more, there's a humility to that.
Yeah.
And then having a wife who will call you out
is clutch.
Yeah.
Gotta have that.
You gotta have that. Prayer, a wife that calls you out.
Yeah.
That's wild. Because when I look at you, I'm like, he seems always pretty. You don't seem like the guy in the kitchen who's bossing people around.
I'm not like a yeller or a screamer or anything like that. But I do like to have the conversations and kind of get into the mix. So
how many employees do you have now?
270, 200,
gosh.
250, 270, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
That's insane.
It's a lot. We have 6 restaurants. So, so it's.
Wait, 6 restaurants?
There's 2 Mercado Juarez's.
Oh.
One in Arlington, one in Fort Worth. Okay. And then Clay Pigeon, Piatello, Provender Hall, Walloons.
Okay, 6. That's wild.
Yep.
So open Piatello. Actually, before we leave the Piatello, I am not a chicken person. I'm a beef person. I eat beef.
Yeah, red meat.
I'm a red meat guy. But your chicken at Piatello is like the best chicken I've ever had.
It's so good.
How do you do that? It's like so moist and like crispy. And
The roulade.
Yeah, it's like in this
Yeah.
little crazy little roll thing.
Yeah, we bone the chicken out from the backbone forward, so that we have a boneless whole chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Pound that out so that the meat's all even, so it cooks even. Roll it up, cook it, and then sear the skin
How do you sear the skin like that?
in a hot pan.
Bro,
Yeah.
it is
It's so good, and then slice it.
Except I could eat like
You're
3
good.
of them.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I need
It's good.
I need
It's really really good.
I need 2 more of these. It's like the best chicken I've ever had. Anyways, I digress. Piatello's is going well.
Yeah.
And then what came next?
Provender Hall was next.
Okay.
So we weren't necessarily looking to open another restaurant at that time. You know, I knew I wanted to open another one, but I wasn't quite ready yet. But that location was just so good.
Yeah.
I was like, man,
You got a killer location.
I was like, I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but we got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we said yes and went and did that. And it's just crazy
But
over
the
there.
Stockyards was not doing that. Like it was still a little like I remember when they were doing all the construction. I was like, I think this is gonna be cool.
Yeah, that was kind of the sentiment in the whole town. We were the first in, and it was like, okay, everyone's keeping their eye on it. A lot of people are really skeptical. Some people are upset.
Yeah, some people are upset.
Yeah,
And they had, like Brood was thinking about going over there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just don't know. It's
Yeah.
this expensive rent.
it's very expensive.
It's very expensive rent. But then, man, hindsight,
And then it just
Now there's-
explodes.
thousands and thousands and thousands of people there
It's insane.
always. Does
It's
does
insane.
that restaurant do well?
It does. Yeah. And then so we opened that. We were set to open COVID week of shutdown. Like when that same week we got shut down.
Oh, that was.
We were training our opening staff the week prior.
I think I went to your soft opening for that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Oh.
it was right before.
And then we shut down.
Oh,
We
man.
never opened
Yeah,
until
that's right.
until we were allowed to post shutdown.
And what were you just freaking out?
I was freaking out.
What'd you do?
So, you know, that was such a weird deal, you know, and it was when it hit the East Coast. That's when my wife Emily was like, "We need to start looking at this." You know, people are shutting down, and you know it's moving, and I was like, "Girl, you are crazy." I was like, "That's Texas will never do that."
Mm-hmm.
You know, just stay the course. I'm not slowing down. Like, you're crazy. And it was like 5 days later, it's pretty obvious that we're going to shut down. And all of our other shops, the revenue's just tanking because people aren't going out to eat.
Canceling reservations.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing like 5 people a night. I mean,
Wow.
we're just hemorrhaging cash. And, you know, we just see it coming. So, you know, about 12 days prior to the actual shutdown, we called it and we're like, let's close and reserve our capital so that if we are able to open again, we have money to open with. And, you know, had a big meeting with the staff and talked through it and the whole bit. And so, you know, once all that kind of started to fade away and get behind us, we opened Provender Hall.
How many months was that? It was like a month or 2, probably, right?
Yeah, it was a couple months.
And you had to tell all your people and you've been training.
I tell you what, that was the worst. I thought for sure we were going to lose Piatello.
You did.
I did. I remember just eating there on what we assumed was going to be the last night of business there.
Was that April or
I don't know.
May?
I don't know.
Something like
I
that.
can't remember.
You were eating there
Yeah, we're eating there. We're on the patio
with your family.
family, and I'm just like, this is it.
Nuh-uh.
And then, you know, talking with the staff from all the restaurants saying, you know, we have no idea what's going on.
And you're out of money. You don't have much. Like,
Yeah, but we think this is the right thing to do. and when this all gets kicked off again, come back, you know, and yeah, it was wild.
How did you handle that stress?
I cleaned a lot.
Okay.
I just went up to the restaurants, took everything apart, and I would spend like 12, 16 hours a day just cleaning things that you'll never see.
Really?
Yeah.
That was your way of kind of taking your mind off.
I just couldn't not work. I had to go do something.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just in there just cleaning. So, you know, we told everyone, come by the restaurants. We have plenty of food and toilet paper, because that was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, raid the restaurants, take it home. And then that's what happened.
Yeah. So eventually
we opened back up.
open back up.
Yeah.
Provender Hall. And Provender Hall's a different vibe. You kind of double down on the Texas smoky.
Yeah, we went Texas with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a lot of fun.
And it's such a cool vibe.
It's
Upstairs
so cool.
and
So cool. But yeah, when we opened back up, the National Finals Rodeo was in Texas instead of Vegas. And so the stockyards were jam packed.
yeah. And people are like, screw this. I'm tired.
No one cared.
Yeah.
No one cared at all. And it was shoulder to shoulder people in the stockyards, and it was insane. And it really hasn't slowed down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And is that which of your restaurants does best? I mean, like volume wise.
From a volume standpoint, Mercado Juarez, Arlington does the most people.
Okay.
But yeah, they're all a little different, and they all have their own seasons. So we'll have Clay Pigeon's our most efficient restaurant in terms of margin.
Okay, it's like the most profitable.
Right. As a percentage, not as a dollar amount.
Okay.
And then
That's interesting.
And then Piatello is our most consistent, so it's kind of the easiest one to manage cost on from a staffing level and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But you know, Provender just has like wild weekends, so you'll get a Wednesday where you'll do $1,000 in revenue. It's awful, you know, and you lose money. But then you'll do a Friday, Saturday that's just insane, and it makes up for a whole week worth of nothing.
Tourists down there.
So, you know, they're all a little different. And then learning this whole Tex-Mex business has been pretty wild.
How did that happen?
So I really want to get more into the real estate side of the restaurant business. And so I was having lunch with a broker one day, and he's like, you know, what are you looking for? What do you want to do? And I told him, so we want to own the real estate from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to sign any more leases.
Because you did that at Clay Pigeon, but couldn't do that at Waterside.
Right. Couldn't do it at Waterside. Couldn't do it in the stockyards.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a non-option. So he goes, well, I've got something off market. It's really not what you do, but the real estate is involved. I said, well, I'll take a look at it. And so we start looking at this thing, and you know, it's Mercado Juarez. It's been open for 40 years. It's got a lot of brand equity there. It's got a lot of loyal customers. It's been ignored for a long time. You know, it was in pretty rough shape. A lot of deferred maintenance. A lot of stuff that needed work. But the bones of the business were good, and the real estate was there, and I was like, you know what? I think we can make this work. The price was right, and it all just, you know, we were praying about it, we were talking about it, we were running the numbers, and it all just kind of started to fall in line, and we thought, all right.
And do you have partners? Like, do you have?
I have a group of investors.
So you have investors,
right,
that are like, you've done well. We want to be in on this.
Right. I think restaurants are fun, and people want to be a part of that. They're not always the best investments, but you know, I think.
Did you have when you opened number 2, Piatello? Did you have investors there?
Yeah. Well, that one, I my dad and I did together, just the two of us.
Okay.
And I thought that I was a lot better at it than I actually was. And so I was like, well, I'll pitch in some money because I thought I was hot stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that was not a good idea, but it ended up working out.
Okay. Yeah, hence that I needed more capital than I thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we brought on some partners
Yeah.
for Provender Hall.
Right.
And then
Right.
balloons
Right.
and that's allowed you to kind of grow faster.
Correct.
Which now you like. So a couple questions. One, so when I talked to had Tim Love on the podcast, one of the things he said, he was like, restaurants are really not that profitable until you have 3.
Yeah.
And when you have 3, you start to have economies of
scale. Yeah.
With marketing and bookkeeping.
Right. He's correct.
Is that true?
Yeah. I think there's certain thresholds that you meet along 3 to 10 to whatever, where your kind of internal infrastructure is at a right spot where you're running 3 real efficiently. And then you grow to 6 and you kind of need to beef up that infrastructure and it gets a little bit more expensive to run.
Yeah.
But then with that same amount of infrastructure, you can run 10.
Okay.
So there's different thresholds along the way, and he's right. 3 is a
But
is
there's
break
also
point.
I mean, even hearing you talk about, you're like, Clay Pigeon is our most efficient, but Piatello is the most consistent.
Yeah.
But even like talking like that, there's a huge jump in skill set. I mean, you're now, going from in the kitchen creative food guy
Right.
to I am running
Yeah.
270 employees.
Yeah. Yeah. I joke that I got into cooking because I just could never stand being at a desk. And now
Are you at a desk?
Now I'm at a desk.
You are. So are you? You're
I
not,
have an office. I'm at a desk. I don't cook all that much anymore.
Yeah, which kind of makes me sad. I go to your restaurants and I'm like looking around.
Yeah.
because I used to see you.
Yeah.
There.
I'm still there.
Not
but
that
I'm rotating between 6 shops, and we made it a priority to be at home a little bit more than I used to be, and
so you home at night now? Mostly?
I am, mostly, yeah.
Which is your kids probably love that.
It's great. It all happened kind of at a good age for them because they don't remember me never being home, which is nice. So now I'm home.
That's all. So so walk me through a day in the life now.
Day in life is get up decently early, and
What is decently early?
we get up about 6.
Okay.
During the week, and then get the kids put together, get lunches packed up, get off to school. Depending on my meetings or Emily's meetings, we always decide what the week schedule is on Sunday. We put the calendars together and figure out who's taking the kids where, and then we'll drop them off at school. Then head straight to the office, and the meetings start. And it's a full day of meetings or in the restaurants, kind of checking up and
So you're leading.
tuning.
You're doing a lot of meetings.
Doing a lot of meetings, doing a lot of in restaurant stuff. Doing a lot of brainstorming and figuring out how we're going to grow and what's next, and preparing for that.
And is there more growth on the horizon? Because
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes you're like sometimes it drives me crazy. Like, what's next? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
And I'm wired. I like next
Yeah.
thing, but also sometimes I'm like, I'm doing so much. I don't want like.
Yeah.
But is that the target right now to open more? Because you're by all accounts, you're doing a lot. You have a lot.
We do have a lot going on, but we also have a phenomenal team that shoulders most of that work.
And you've kind of cracked the code. It seems like.
Well, I hope. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next on that horizon?
We're going to expand Mercado Juarez.
We're gonna do more of those.
We're going to do more of those.
And has that grown since you took it over?
It has. But we know that is something that can be much better than it is in its current state. And I'm really honestly pretty excited about it. And so that's kind of
fun.
what we're focused on.
Did you tweak that menu?
We have started to.
Okay.
The food is good, so there wasn't a lot to change.
And are you still driving the menu?
It's a collaboration, but I'm very much
You are.
a
Do you
part of
still
that.
get your hands dirty and are like, let's
Yeah.
try this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm assuming that's kind of like your first love. That's
It is. Yeah. I mean, I love food. I know food. It's a comfort zone for me. So it's good to get in there and do that.
So next on the horizon is Mercado Juarez
Mm-hmm.
expanding that. And we didn't talk about Walloons. Walloons is rad. Walloons is down the street from my house.
Yeah.
I ate there like 2 days ago. It was
Yeah.
my birthday. It was my
Yeah.
40th birthday, and we went there because I love
It's awesome.
oysters.
Yeah.
Your redfish and the salmon there is so good.
So good. It's such a cool space. Great menu, great bar.
And
Love that bar.
Talk me about the Ernest Hemingway thing.
Yeah.
I don't isn't that what the inspiration is? Or-
Kind of. So Walloons. So there's a few different things there. So there's like Wallonia in Belgium, which is on a French border. So the people there are called Walloons, and they're French speaking, but they're not French. And the restaurant itself is it leans French. There's a lot of French undertones, but it's not French. So it's not French in the way that New Orleans isn't French, but there's a strong French component.
Yeah.
And then there is a lake in Michigan called Walloon Lake, and it's near where my wife's family has a cottage. And that Walloon Lake is where Hemingway summered as a boy. And that's where he kind of learned his love of nature and the outdoors. And then so we kind of took that and ran with it through some cocktail stuff, and the clock on the wall is his birthday, and there's some Easter eggs in there for
the martinis are so good
for that. They're so
Classic
good.
martinis. And my kids love just like the shrimp there, the classic shrimp. They're these massive shrimp, and like
You can't beat a good shrimp cocktail.
most of them are not that good. Most of them it's kind of in a lot of places it feels underwhelming. But they're like massive. And Justice, my little one, can and then they're not cheap. I think it's like $16 for the shrimp. But she'll put down we ordered some for the table, and then she ate them all, and she told the waitress, she was like, I would like some more shrimp, please. I was like,
It's
JJ.
rough when the kids start eating on the real menu, and they're throwing down some food,
Just
and you're like,
throwing it
oh
down.
my goodness.
Yeah. And the deviled eggs, I love.
Yeah,
I feel like
redfish beignets are awesome.
But people do weird things with deviled eggs,
Yeah,
and those are
that was the idea.
I like normal deviled eggs.
Yeah,
that
it's
are great.
It's church lady deviled eggs.
Yeah, I love it.
That's
I love it,
we don't need to put a cheeseburger on top of a deviled egg.
And you kill the branding. I feel like that was the branding on that was a different.
That was the first time we intentionally thought about branding.
But the branding is
And
gorgeous.
It was so good, so
Yeah.
good.
I don't know if that changed. It felt like there was a little bit of a pivot in how you approached.
That was the
brand.
most intentional restaurant we opened.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking earlier, you learn a little bit every time.
Yeah.
And the branding and being intentional about our menu and the physical space was really a big deal on Walloons.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about the Paslay Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a huge part of your story, something you're passionate about.
Right.
Walk me through what that is and what you're doing there.
Yeah, it kind of started in 2020 when we had a lot of time to think, and in spite of what was going on, we still felt very fortunate. And we're like, well, what should we do with all, with our blessings and with our, what are we doing with all this? Are we just, it felt like we needed to be doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously dyslexia has shaped my life quite a bit. Our son's ADHD and has his own struggles with that. I think the restaurant industry as a whole attracts a lot of people with some sort of learning challenge, and it's a great place for them.
Mm-hmm.
So this kinship to it just really started to build, and Emily and I were talking one night. We're like, we have these restaurants, and we have relationships with food purveyors and alcohol purveyors who will donate us food and drink, and we have the best staff in the world who will give up a day off to come help us throw a party. And we could throw a party pretty cheap. And we think we could charge a lot to attend that party and raise a ton of money.
Yeah.
And so the first year we turned Clay Pigeon into a casino. We took out all the furniture and we brought in craps tables and roulette and the whole bit, and had dinner and drinks and gambling and an auction and raised some money. And then that's evolved over the past couple of years into a dinner and a show. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I bet.
And we've, I think to date, we've raised over $500,000 for organizations in Fort Worth that help kids with learning differences. So Hill School, Literacy United, there's so many good programs out there, Key School, Hill School, Literacy United, Link Ed. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good things. They're not always the best fundraisers. We can throw a party and raise money, but we can't do what they do.
Yeah.
So that's
it's a cool partnership.
That's the relationship there.
That's awesome. Isn't it? It's just so crazy. Like, so I'm also a college dropout. Went to business school for a couple months. I was like, I can't do calculus. But it's like so many like there's this singular pathway.
Yeah.
School and sit at a desk and do and then go to college. Like,
yeah.
But there's so much more you can do.
There's so much more education that can happen that doesn't involve sitting at a desk.
Yeah, that doesn't involve sitting at a desk.
That's a great way to learn, and it works for a lot of people. But there's plenty of other ways to learn that don't have anything to do with a desk.
Yeah.
So,
well, man, that's cool. I love what y'all are doing. When's the next event?
We just had it.
You did?
A month ago. So
okay. It was good.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We get really cool acts. They come from all over Vegas, LA, New York, and we do kind of this variety show. And it's, we serve dinner and drinks and it's dinner and a show.
Okay. That's cool.
And that's what it is.
Kind of a dinner theater, cabaret kind of thing.
Right. And it's like you would buy a ticket to go see a similar show in Vegas. And then at the end of it, we have a real short auction and that's a wrap,
That's awesome.
We cut some checks.
That's so cool. Okay, I'm gonna get into a couple of advice questions and then we'll wrap it up. Juggling it all, specifically family and rest. Like, give me some advice or how you manage that.
Yeah, it's setting your priorities right, and that's something that took work. I didn't do a very good job of that in the beginning years. I've gotten a lot better at it now, but setting those priorities right and drawing the line in the sand and committing your time to those priorities, and then trusting in your team and your people and allow them to do the job that you've hired them to do is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way you can run even one business by yourself.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a good team, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. What about anything just like, you said consistency with employees and like any other things like for managing people or lessons you've learned along the way there for just leadership principles or things that have helped you or shaped you or.
Yeah. I think really just being engaged and being honest with people. I mean, screw ups happen all the time, but when you don't know a person, those screw ups get blown out of proportion. When you have that relationship, then there can be grace within screw ups, and I think that's really important. So being in there, knowing people, having conversations, so that when things do get off the tracks, we can get them back on and
because you have that relationship.
Because you have a relationship with them
built up.
Yeah.
What about marketing? Like you built these places. How do you get people to come in?
You tell me. We've always relied on word of mouth, and that has worked for us for a long time. And we're
because y'all are less marketing heavy than some restaurants.
I'm a marketing idiot. I'm telling you, I don't.
You
know.
just make great spaces and great food.
I don't know anything about.
You're
marketing.
and if you build it, they will come.
That's been my mantra.
Really?
No, I mean, really, marketing is not a strong suit of mine. Never has been. I don't know much about it. I probably need to get a Marketing for Dummies book.
Yeah.
But we've come to the realization now that as we grow, it's going to have to be a big component of what we do, and figuring that out is another new challenge for us.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing you've done what you've done without. But I do think marketing is also giving people an experience and cultivating that word of mouth. Because honestly, that is the best kind of marketing. It's like
it is the best, but it's also the slowest.
Yeah.
So word of mouth is phenomenal. It just takes a while to get that ball rolling. If you could speed that up with some other ways of getting your name out there, that's probably the smarter way to go.
Yeah. We could talk about that.
Good deal.
What was it? Is there any? Well, let me see. I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you. Is there anything you would go back and change in that whole journey? No.
We've learned so much, and I wouldn't want to miss out on those opportunities. We've met some phenomenal people. Wouldn't want to miss out on that. We've screwed up a ton, but gosh, without that, we couldn't.
Those are your lessons.
Those are the good.
That's how you
Those
learn.
are the golden nuggets.
Yeah.
I mean, really, screw ups are your best friend. When we screw up with a guest, when we do, we don't provide them the experience that they've come to know us to provide. Making that right is sometimes better than being right from the start. We have gained more consistent, regular guest by fixing a screw up with them.
Yeah.
Going
out of your way to make it right.
Going out of our way to make it right. Just owning up to it and doing what you should do. That starts to build that relationship, and that's what gets that.
Do you
repeat
empower
business.
your servers to do that? Like, how do you trickle that down?
That's part of the culture.
It is.
I mean, we're about our guest, and we're about them having a good time. And we know when that doesn't happen, and it's our job to make it right one way or another. So that's part of our culture, and we talk about it a lot.
Is that like, do y'all have core values? Is that like a value of y'all's? Do y'all have like sayings or things?
Yeah, we kind of have I guess you'd call them core values. We're people who are hospitality driven.
Okay.
We're people who are curious by nature. We are people who get like almost a high out of working hard. Like it's a badge of honor for us to work hard. And we're here to help people have a good time. Like that's it.
I love it. Simple.
Yeah.
Simple but good stuff.
Simple but good stuff.
I love the curious one.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. What do you do? So a couple questions, couple final questions. What do you do to like personally stay grounded and healthy? And you talked a little bit about that, but just like healthy leaders makes for a healthy team. And so is there any like habits or rhythms or things? Can you walk me through some of those?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a faithful guy. My religion is a big part of my life. Doing our Bible studies is a weekly grounding for me. Church is a weekly grounding for me. Prayer is a multiple times a day grounding for me. And that for me helps me set my priorities right and kind of put myself in the back seat when I try to put myself in the front seat, So that helps a lot. Family helps a lot. Just watching our kids and struggling through marriage and family life and all those things. I think just kind of help bring it all together.
Yeah, is the faith side like is that newer in life? Has that always been a part of your story and journey?
I grew up in a Christian home, and faith was always a big part of that. And then my journey, like I started to veer off from that, and probably over the course of a 20-year period of time, I really got pretty far away from it. And for me, that was very unhealthy, and wheels would kind of started to fall off there, and then back to it now, and it's a very, very important part for me to be able to keep going in the direction that I'm going and keep the train on the tracks.
So, I love that, man.
Yeah,
I love it. Are there any books or resources or podcasts or like things that were really pivotal or instrumental for you?
Setting the Table by Danny Meyer is
I love Danny Meyer.
Such a great book. Such a great book. I think it's a good business book. It's obviously a hospitality book, but I think any business can benefit from those elements of hospitality and team building.
Yeah. His core values are so good.
He's a stud.
Yeah.
He's so good.
So that influenced you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, man, he's great. What advice would you give your younger self?
Man, just keep going. Keep
like
playing.
if you could go back and see, Marcus struggling in school, knowing what you know now.
Gosh, with the knowledge of hindsight, it's tough, because I think I know a lot of those challenges are beneficial in the long run. So I wouldn't want to give that up.
That's a cool perspective.
Yeah, but I would say get your core values, your priorities, and get on that path earlier. I think that would have saved a lot of time and headache. So yeah,
that's good. Okay, few quick rapid questions. Your favorite meal at your, like, if I held a gun to your head and said you have to choose one meal at your restaurants.
Oh, man.
Where are you going for date night?
Well, probably going to Clay Pigeon, but it's a tough one. But those are first.
And what are you getting there? If I'm eating what the chef is eating, what are you getting?
I'm probably starting with the bone marrow.
I love the bone marrow.
And I'm probably gonna get a steak and like some roasted mushrooms and a glass of wine. And
what wine are you getting?
Maybe a Tempranillo, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite cocktail?
I like just a tequila and soda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ranch water?
Yeah, kind of, but without the lime.
Oh, without the lime?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yep.
Favorite restaurant that's not your own? Like if you're doing like a date night with friends, can't go to your own, where do you go?
Man, that's a tough one. We went to 61 Osteria last night. It was great. We were there with a couple of friends. We had a really good time there.
That's awesome.
That was cool.
Favorite? Do you have like like this is one of the best meals I've ever had in all your traveling and adventures and going to restaurants? Do you have is there a place where like this meal was so awesome?
I had the most amazing experience and meal at 11 Madison Park, New York, years and years ago. That's a longer story, but it was phenomenal.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was that when Danny still owned it, or when
No, when Will and Daniel owned it together. Will's not a part of it anymore, but it was at the time in that year they got named the number one restaurant in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
And was it amazing?
It was unbelievable.
Really?
It was so
It was
good.
as good as they
And I mean, it's the food and the serve, it's all flawless, but the experience was so comfortable and so nice. It was great.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah.
So have you read or listened to Unreasonable Hospitality?
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So 11 Madison Park.
Because Will was Will and Brian Canlis were roommates in college together.
Really?
So
I didn't know that.
They were pretty close. So when I was at Canlis, 11 Madison Park and Canlis would kind of share a lot of staff kind of back and forth. And then, of course, Will and Brian were buddies. So there was always that connection.
It's one of my favorite books I've read in the past
Yeah.
year or so.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But what makes me sad is it's now like a vegetarian restaurant.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with this.
I know.
But I'm like, if I spend $300 or $400 for the meal of my life, I need it to have, because it's pretty expensive. Like it's this
not
whole
cheap.
11 course, but it's like supposed to be the best meal. And now
it's phenomenal. We had a great, and they had just opened up Nomad at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I'll tell you one quick story about it. When we got there at 11 Madison Park, it was like this movie ticket thing that had little punch outs on it, and it was flavors. It was like 4 different flavors. So it was celery or cherry or chocolate or coffee or something like that. And they're like, just punch out whatever flavor you want this meal to inspire. I'm like, okay. So I think I picked like coffee, and my dad picked cherry or something like that. And we punched it out. And they're like, okay. So throughout the meal, different hints of coffee or cherry would be in my meal and his meal, respectively. And it was really kind of neat. And at the beginning of the meal, they also gave us this key, and they're like, just put this in your pocket, save it for later. It'll be a little surprise, right? I was like, okay. So I put it in my pocket. And so I'm telling you, we're eating the best meal I've ever had in my life. And the service is comfortable, and it's just really, really nice. And we go through this whole, and we had like 16 courses. It was insane. It was so good. And at the end of it, we took a little tour of the kitchen, and everyone was extremely gracious and nice. And it was just this really cool experience. And we're leaving. We've paid. We're leaving, and they're handing us some granola to have for tomorrow morning, and these go away gifts, and thank you for being here. And it's just, you feel like a rock star leaving that place. And we walked outside after the best meal we've ever had in our lives, and we're like, whoa, that was cool. And then the maitre d' meets us outside, and she says, I believe that one of you has a key. We're like, oh yeah, sorry, I totally forgot. Here you go. Oh no, keep it. If you're up for it, we've got a surprise for you. I'm like, yeah, we're up for it. So they had just built Nomad, so she walked us across the park to Nomad, and they have this library, which is phenomenal. And so we go in there for kind of after dinner cocktails, and we sit down. We both sit on this love seat, and there's a coffee table in front of us, and the guy comes out, and he's got this deck of cards, and this deck of cards has like different pictures of it on it, like a porch swing and a barrel and a unicycle and whatever. And he's like, okay, pick a couple of cards and give them to me, and I'll take them to the bartender, and he'll make a cocktail that's crafted off the cards you picked. And I'm like, well, that's cool. So they did, and then he comes back with his treasure chest, and he sits it down in front of us. And he goes, one of you has a key that opens this chest. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I pull the key out, open it up, and there's 2 chocolate truffles. And my dad's on my right, and he takes his and eats it, and it tastes like cherry. And I take mine and I eat it, and it tastes like coffee. So they had continued that.
That's wild.
To a whole separate building,
a
whole separate restaurant, and just kept it all the way through.
That's so cool.
It was really, really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Final question. Legacy. What does legacy mean to you? What do you hope your legacy is?
I hope a handful of things. I hope that we leave it better than we found it. With regard to the dining scene in Fort Worth, I hope we leave it better than we found it. I hope that people that work for us go on to do their own shops and kind of propel that. Yeah, I hope that people will say we had a great time there. We made so many memories at that table, and that's the beautiful part of restaurants. I think the table is extremely important, whether it's a funeral or a wedding or a birthday or a date night because you got the kids out of your hair for a minute, or it's the whole family with the kids. The dinner table is a special place, and a lot of great things happen there. So I hope that people say they had a good time.
Yeah, I think they are. And well, I think you're doing that. Well, Marcus, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jamey. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Very, very fun. So appreciate you, man.
Anytime. Thank you.
Congratulations, you made it to the end. Appreciate you listening. If you enjoy what you heard, if you enjoy these episodes, please subscribe and like and share wherever you listen to podcasts. When you do that, it goes a long way and helps us continue to produce great new content. This episode is brought to you by 6 Ave Storytelling, where we help businesses grow their brands through the power of storytelling. If you're an entrepreneur who is interested in learning more about that, please visit 6avestorytelling.com today.